Good afternoon and welcome to the weekly CG Tech powered by the Virtual Lab webinar. 12:30 to 1 o'clock. We will not exceed the 30 minutes that we say every week. So quick reminders, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube. Set a reminder so that you're reminded that it's on next week. And feedback is always welcome. And for Charlie in particular, who I will introduce shortly, start firing your questions throughout. We're going to have more of a discussion and a chat. And I think we're going to be joined by Mike Hibbert, who is running late as always. So Charlie, let me quickly hand across to you to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Charlie Whyman. I specialize in B2B marketing, specifically for companies that are trying to do it all themselves, and also on LinkedIn. So I help a lot of teams leverage the power of LinkedIn to market and generate leads and sales. So not just leads, but sales as well. So that's me.
Good. Thank you very much. And it's strategic B2B marketing. What does it involve?
Well, it's thinking strategically about what it is that you're doing rather than tactically, because so many businesses approach their marketing tactically instead of thinking about, right, okay, well, where does my market actually hang out? What do they care about? How are you actually going to convert them into sort of people that have no idea what it is that you're doing or the value that you can offer to them? How do you convert them into curious parties and then into leads and then into sales? So I help people have a look at the bigger picture so they know the why behind everything that they're doing, and also pretty much know what to prioritize all of their sort of time, their effort and their budget on, how to leverage all of the assets and the things that they've got available and at their fingertips. So for example, LinkedIn, it's a free tool. So many companies don't leverage it, and it's completely crazy because there are so many different ways that you can do it, so many different things that you can do with it. And then also create systems and processes so that you can create time and, feel a bit more free rather than sort of scrambling or overwhelmed or frustrated constantly with your marketing, which is sort of kind of the three biggest challenges that I hear companies face.
So I'm going to bring Mike on the stream. Welcome, Mike. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi there, sorry a bit late. Hi, I'm Mike, Ops Manager for the Virtual Lab, as many of you will know, based up in not so sunny Dundee today.
Good. So Charlie, obviously we've just got you on for a free consultation session in our marketing, but I guess over to you. So, I mean, you've sort of said you're gonna do a little bit of talking. Teach us, talk to us.
Teach you. So I work with a framework called the Otter, which you can sort of see in the background behind me. And this framework sort of helps you understand pretty much how to get more with less when it comes to doing your marketing. Because let's face it, when we go into business, we don't go into business to become amazing marketers. We go into business to do the things that we love, to help people and to build a business. But marketing is that kind of necessary evil, because you have to market if you want to survive, thrive and grow. And also, you don't want to be completely dependent on word of mouth marketing. So a lot of businesses I end up working with are reliant on referrals or people that just come to them sort of by accident or by chance, and kind of end up on that sort of feast or famine kind of roller coaster. So when you're a little bit more proactive and strategic about your marketing, you can kind of control a little bit more about the leads that you're getting through. So you're not in that feast or famine mode, and you can kind of control what it is that you're doing and have a better picture of the growth of your business. So what is the Otter? Well, the Otter is a framework that you can use. You can use it when you're setting your overall marketing plan, but then you can also use it for the individual campaigns in which you're running. So the O, I'll take you through each letter. The O stands for objectives, because every time that you do everything, you need to establish your objectives, and your marketing objectives need to prop up the business. They need to be in line with your business objectives. They also need to be measurable. They need to be relevant to what it is that you're doing and your audience. And they also need to be time sensitive. So many companies and so many marketing agency proposals that I see from people have woolly objectives. So they'll be like, oh, it'd be great to run a webinar. Okay, and then what? By when? Who's going to be responsible for what? So objectives basically set your expectations in terms of what do you want to work towards, but then also have a look at, right, what do you need in order to hit those objectives? So like sometimes see objectives a little bit like milestones to help you achieve your goals. So if you have a 5-year goal of developing a new product, like launching a new product, bringing something new to market, you would want to reverse engineer that and have a look at your objectives along the way and basically say, right, okay, well, I need to do this by then in order to get to the next point, and then on and on and on. So the O, when you understand your objectives, you know where to prioritize your time, your budget, and also your energy. Because if you don't enjoy marketing, but you're responsible for it, you need to manage those energy levels, because otherwise that frustration, that overwhelm, and that kind of like negative impression that you have will sort of roll on to other things. And you don't want it rolling on to like your team or your family or anything else like that. So the T, the first T, that stands for tools, assets and resources as well, because you are all sitting on a mountain of value already. So your expertise, your knowledge, your skill set, that of your team as well, those are all part of your marketing tools, assets and resources. And you just need to be able to tap into all of those. So having a look at what tools do you need in order to achieve your objectives, and not getting too distracted by all of the shiny objects out there. So things like networking, for example, we're all networking all the time, whether it's with our existing clients, whether it's with partners, associations, organizations. But the more you can understand what you have available, to start with, the more you know how to use that and how to get the most out of it. So the second T is training, because sometimes you have these tools or you have these things that you can do, but you don't necessarily know how to get the most out of them. So that's where you would work with somebody like me, for example, or somebody else, or have a look at some old training that you might have done that you just need to refresh your knowledge. But more often than not, you need to know sort of like how to do the thing that you need to do, or know who you can get help from. So that's the second T. The E stands for expectations, because again, marketing, so many people end up disappointed because either they don't set their expectations and end up disappointed, or they're expecting too much too soon. So marketing is a bit like it's a marathon, not a sprint. There are ways of generating quick wins, but if you are focusing all of your energy on the quick win marketing efforts, you're going to be constantly like sort of churning things over and over and over and over. So think of it as a marathon, and just make sure that you're setting your expectations and setting yourself targets as well. So I always recommend looking at, right, okay, what would be a good result? So like, what's the minimum that you would expect from that activity, that money that you're investing, the energy that you're going to put into that? What's a better result? What's a better result? So like, what would be nice to have? And then what's the best result? So like, if you really pushed yourself, if you really stretched yourself, what could you achieve if you were going to really focus on that thing? So expectations are really important, because let's face it, you don't want to end up disappointed at the end of the day. And then last but not least, the R stands for review and reflect, because again, if you just keep doing stuff, you don't know what's working and what's not working. So if you can regularly review and reflect on the things that you are doing, you can identify what you need to stop doing, what you need to start doing, what you need to continue doing, and also what you can optimize. So for example, I run a lot of webinars. I've ran so many webinars earlier this year, and one tweak to my landing page made a difference. So the conversion rate went from 47% to 72% just by one thing that I did with the landing page. So instead of thinking, okay, I might need to do different things, or this is not working, just think, right, okay, well, could I optimize it or leverage it in a different way? So yeah, the more frequently that you review and reflect what it is that you're doing, the more control you've got, the more you can do more with less, basically. And that's why I work with the Otter. So yeah.
Come in. I was just enjoying bringing the Otter up and down, actually. I find that was quite therapeutic. Clearly,
everybody needs an Otter in their life.
Exactly, yeah. Clearly, you're used to looking at two guys here that have run a marathon. Two quick questions. COVID. So obviously, you talk about strategy and the best company in the world, but how have you found, from a customer perspective, from your own perspective, people are coping with COVID, and how that affects either the short-term strategy or the long-term strategy? Because obviously, we hope that we'll come through COVID at some point into some normality, whether it's the new norm or the old norm or a new norm.
A new normal. I understand what the new normal is. That'd be really good.
Oh yeah, I think it'll come in January, February.
Oh, I know. I tell you what, I'm a bit over COVID now and lockdown, and I think I was over it months ago. But yeah, I think my observation, there's two types of companies at the moment. There are companies that are driven by their purpose more than the profit, and then there are companies that are driven solely by profit. And the companies that are driven by purpose more than profit are the companies that are coming through this whole thing, not just with a more positive mindset, but also looking at the opportunities that they've got. As an example of which, so I have my own podcast called The Curiosity Key, and the episode that was launched today was with a guy called Bradley Hatchett, and his whole business was reliant on in-person events. So he used to organize events in football stadiums and networking meetings and things like that. So obviously with COVID and lockdown, you can't meet in person. So he's just completely revisited his business and found an online tool, not Zoom, because let's face it, we all hate Zoom meetings now, not Zoom, so that he can host online events and still give people the experience. Because I think with businesses, if you know what purpose you have, you know what outcome that you're trying to deliver. But with COVID, the mechanism in which you deliver that outcome has had to change. So sometimes it's just like adapting that mechanism. So your strategy in one way is still the same. You still want to get in front of these type of people, deliver that particular outcome, but the mechanism in which you're doing that has changed. So your messaging needs to change slightly. So I think from a marketing point of view, it's first of all, have a look at, right, okay, why are you doing what you're doing? And, you know, do you just need to adapt the mechanism? Do you need to revisit the strategy of the purpose? You know, what needs to change at what point? And then also like really knuckle down and think, right, okay, what am I doing already that I could take advantage of more? Like, what could I leverage? So again, the businesses that I've spoken to that have really struggled, they've taken a more proactive approach to marketing and thought, right, okay, I don't have that many clients right now. I've got this time. So I'm going to get those recommendations in place and I'm going to actually be a bit more proactive in my approach.
I never like a product plug, but you mentioned online conferencing and events. If you haven't been to virtuworks.io, which is our platform for remote work, education, and conferencing and events, then you haven't lived. So head across there and have a quick look. I guess as well. So as a CEO, and you know, I came from an ops background. One of my favorite books, and I tell everyone to read it, I don't think anyone does, is 5 Dysfunctions of a Leader, or 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I've probably read that wrong already. And in that, it shows you the battle of all companies. You know, you think it's unique to your own, but between ops, finance, marketing, how do you find when you go into companies? I guess you're engaging mostly, I would assume, with the marketing or owners of these companies. How do you find the internal battle to convince actually the whole group that strategic marketing and strategic planning is essential?
It's always a battle, especially if I go in to train a team on how to use LinkedIn, because in a small company, like as you know, that everybody's responsible for sales. It's not just sales and marketing. And in larger companies, sales generally sit in a silo over here, and then marketing sit in a silo over here, and they kind of sort of like stare at each other, expecting things from one another, but not actually sort of talking. Again, it kind of comes back to that purpose. I think when teams are fully aligned with the overall goals and purpose and vision of the company, then they work so much better together. But then also when they understand, right, okay, how can they help one another get the most out of what it is that they're doing, then I think people just work in a much more collaborative way rather than a competitive way, because I think it's that sometimes some companies foster a competitive spirit within the team, and I'm really competitive. So like I would always go for a competitive edge, but like when you're working with other people in a team, if you can foster a collaborative approach, then you get more done, and everything just works a lot more swimmingly. People are more proactive, people work better together, communication is a lot simpler. You're not kind of constantly having meetings to talk about the same thing, because people kind of know what it is that they're doing. And why they're doing it. That why piece is really, really important. So yeah, that purpose.
I'm going to try and segue you into something here. So we try and focus on tech and innovation, social media being a key one that we want to talk about here. Money is always tight for companies. How do we get the most from our platforms, I guess, for the biggest bang for our buck? How do we go about getting it?
So the first one is to like really strip it back and just think, right, okay, well, who are you targeting? So who are your customers and where do they hang out? Because if they don't hang out on Facebook, then don't waste your time posting on Facebook. If they hang out on Twitter, then find ways of leveraging Twitter. And sometimes like investing in like I hate the word, but like a coach or a mentor or a trainer or somebody like that as well, that can just help you tweak your approach so you're much more purpose driven and you can use your time in a much better way. It's like with LinkedIn. I spend so much time training people how to leverage LinkedIn because they're approaching it tactically and they're just doing all of these different things, spending ages on it, but not getting the results that they want. So sometimes it's just like really stripping it back, just thinking, right, okay, what is the message that I want to communicate? What are the key problems that your market faces? Who is your market? And like, so it's like I spoke to an IT company a couple of weeks ago and they were like, well, anybody with a computer. That's not good enough. You need to slim it down. You need to be more specific because the smaller your audience, the cheaper it is to market and the less time you're going to have to invest in trying to get in front of them. And I think as well, like building communities as well, and turning your existing clients into your biggest fans, because when you have a community and a fan base, they will do your marketing for you as well. But you need to kind of have a system and a process in order to do that and not just leave it to chance. So yeah, strip it back to its foundations. Don't be everything to everyone. Don't try to be everywhere. But really focus. And I know it sounds counterintuitive because I know what everybody's going to be thinking, right? Okay, well, I'm going to miss out on this market. I'm going to miss out on these opportunities. You're missing out on those opportunities anyway because you're contributing to the noise because you're too generic. So however you're spending your time and your money right now, strip it back and just think, right, okay, well, it's that Otto, isn't it? Like, what are your objectives and what tools, assets, and resources do you need in order to achieve them? It won't be everything.
What advice or tips would you give for contacting or for marketing your services to large multinational companies that often give the appearance of, they've got this huge, castle wall that's impossible to breach? If you want to target these businesses, how do you get in front of the right people? What's your methodology behind that?
So I guess the first part is like, who are the right people? I've worked with a lot of companies that are actually targeting the wrong people in the first place. So who are the right people? And that's why I love LinkedIn, because you can identify who the right people are, or you can test things and see how to get in front of them. And by that, I don't mean contacting them, sending them a connection request and just spamming them with pitches or trying to get them to sign up to a webinar. It's like trying to sort of like make professional friends, either with the people that you want to speak to or the people that can get you in front of the people that you need to speak to. And that's where networking comes in, because when you're networking, most people are there to sell, but very few people are there to buy. Whereas if you approach networking with a view of making professional friends and becoming known for the things that you want to be known for, you can get through to the right people a lot faster. And then also sometimes it's just like, right, okay, well, where do they hang out? So where do they spend their time? And put yourself in front of them. Could you do a guest webinar for somebody else? Could you do a guest podcast? So it's really understanding how the people that you want to target behave, and profiling them in a deep and meaningful way, because then that will save you lots of time in the long term. And a lot of companies don't do that piece first. They just go straight into the tactics of, right, okay, I need to get in front of them on Twitter, or I need to use LinkedIn, or I need to use PR or whatever. But again, the messaging is so generic, and what happens is you just end up competing with all of the noise out there as well. So yeah, the more specific you can be and the more targeted, but specifically based around the behaviors of your target market, the easier it will be.
And it's funny, sticking with LinkedIn. So you mentioned noise. I've noticed a trend on LinkedIn. It's becoming a bit more like Facebook. I log on every day and I see some kid cooking dinner for his brother, and it's all about, there's a very small message, but that individual probably has 5,000-10,000 likes, which I think, we were talking on last week's webinar about Elon Musk gets 25,000 likes. So 5,000 likes, 10,000 likes is pretty big. And I've noticed most of the guys getting these big like audiences are just posting very generic ads. And actually, most of it seems to be shared. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? So obviously, they've got a huge audience. How do you then convert that? And if you go back one, how do you get to that kind of audience?
So I guess it depends on. So if you look at all of the people that are liking Elon Musk's posts about what he had for breakfast, for example, I would probably put money on the fact that all of those people that are liking that are not his target market, or not people that are ever likely to pay for anything that he's got to offer. So sometimes when you go towards that too chatty, too social approach, especially on LinkedIn, that yes, you can generate lots of likes and lots of comments, but are they the right people for you? Is that the type of content that they engage with? So I agree with you that, LinkedIn is turning a little bit into Facebook, but people like to do business with human beings. So marketing, especially in the B2B space, marketing's been very robotic. It's been very it's all product focused, it's all company focused, it's all about the brand. Elon Musk is so big and has this massive audience because he's Elon Musk, not because he's PayPal, not because he's Tesla, not because he's SpaceX or any of these other things. Because people, even in the B2B space, they like to do business with human beings, with personalities, with personal interests. So that's why sharing snippets of, behind the scenes, the real side of you, the mistakes, the imperfections and things like that, they can generate a lot more interest and a lot more engagement than you just sort of talking about the next big product you're having.
Unfortunately, I haven't made any mistakes, so it's going to be hard to do that one. We might have to get Mike to post on those ones.
And I think, with companies as well, like a lot of companies just solely post from their company page. Whereas, again, it's that if you can drive engagement from your personal profile and engage your team to do the same as well, then you're creating a community of advocates and fans and people that actually want to engage with you as well. It's
not a question. I think if it's the same with work, I know this is the most pessimistic comment I think I've ever seen in a row. Go on,
knowledge is power.
What do you think to Rich's comment?
So knowledge is power, and job preservation doesn't help with collaboration. You know what? I disagree with you there. I think collaboration works all the time. It depends on your reasons for collaboration. If you have an authentic reason to collaborate with somebody, get more done. Like, is that two heads about if you're facing a problem? There is a big enough market, even in challenged times, for people to be doing the same thing and offering it to the same people. I think, only collaborate with people that share your values and your purpose and your mission, and it will pay off. I mean, I collaborate with a group of other LinkedIn trainers, and like when we're too busy, because yes, that does happen when you work for yourself or even in a small team, like you can pass a business on to somebody else and then they'll do the same for you. If you don't collaborate, or if you don't have a collaborative approach, then I think you're going to miss out in the future. Maybe not now, but I think the way that people want to do business is more purpose driven. It's more with a view of collaboration. It's more with a view of people being kind and less secretive and being more open and honest and authentic. A lot of the younger generations, they live their lives by that. That's what they want to see companies do, and they're going to be your buyers of the future.
I think also, and again, I don't want to paint. I know Rich from previous days. I don't want to paint a brush, but I think some large companies have struggled to move from a 1990s mindset where you're a worker, you do your job, you go home, and you've mentioned it a few times: culture, purpose. These are all things that I think. You also might be right. Maybe it's a younger person. It's easier for us to think in that way. A job was a career when you were, my dad will often talk about, he started a job and he left when he retired. And I think that was the way we went. Now I think there's more options for us.
Yeah, and I think Rich has just put in the comments, the reality is that people are guarded. Yeah, they are guarded. And I think as well, like with especially LinkedIn and emails as well, because so many people are being hounded by direct sales pitches. We've kind of got like this automatic cynicism where we'll just shut off from it. So we won't give people the chance to even collaborate or talk about what it is that they're doing. And part of what I do is like, right, okay, cool. You don't need to pitch to people cold anymore because of things like social media. You can get to know the people that you're pitching to by just doing a bit of research online. You can understand their drivers, their behaviors, their pain points, their challenges. So it's not as hard as it once was. In fact, it's easier, but it's just a different way of working. And also people are guarded because they're sick of the direct sales pitch. But there's a way of pitching without selling straight off the bat. You wouldn't go to an event or a conference, throw your business card in somebody's face and then run away. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing on LinkedIn. They're connecting with people and they're not saying a thing. They're just like leaving it. But then also at the same time, you wouldn't meet somebody at an event, throw your business card in the event and just go straight into a pitch. You'd at least chat to them first, or you'd observe something, or find a way to have to open up that conversation. Yeah. So yeah, it's that thing, isn't it? Really, don't just pitch. Don't be that spammy salesperson. Be a human being and treat the people that you're speaking to like human beings.
And so I know we've only got 5 minutes left. I know you had a couple other graphics. Do you want me to bring them up? Is there anything you'd want to focus on?
A couple. Did I? So the one, I guess the other one.
And the Charlie Whyman looks like a trigraph.
Yeah, so the one with the 3 circles, so that one's quite good because, well, first of all, welcome to my new branding. So my company is rebranding. I'm moving away from just being Charlie Whyman to Curious B2B Marketing. But if you look at your marketing, and to be honest, and your business as well, have a look at the activities and things that you're doing. Think of things like, if you were starting again, when you start your business, you have to be resourceful. So think of your priorities and have a look at your priorities and just map out a bit of a plan so you know where to focus your time, your budget, and your energy. And then also have a look at what you can leverage. So, you all have networks, whether they're on LinkedIn or not, you all have networks. More often than not, it's just a case of picking up your phone, scrolling through your contacts, or going onto LinkedIn and just asking the people that you know to do an introduction to somebody that you want to speak to. So really understand what you can leverage that you've already got and that you're already doing. And then also create systems and processes. So, you're not chasing your tail all the time, that you've got checklists and things like that, and you can kind of track people through. And I just think it's if you just look at these 3 things together, you're going to have clarity in your business and your marketing. You're going to have the confidence to know that you're doing the right thing, but then also you're going to get the results that you want without then having to spend a fortune on marketing agencies that are going to take you for a ride, or, sort of people that are going to tell you what you should be doing. Because if you apply this framework, you'll know what you should be doing. So yeah. And then the other graphic was, I have a free guide on my website, 7 ways to market your business for free. So if you just head to charliewhyman.com/resources, there are 7 ways that you can market your business for free. Obviously, if you throw a small budget at them, you can do more, but you can do all of these things for free. I've used them for years now. So yeah, it's a freebie. You can just download it and take advantage. And I just encourage you to slow down. Rather than think you have to speed up and do everything all at once. You're not super, we're not Superman, we're not Superwoman. We're just normal people trying to do the best that we can. So, yeah.
And you definitely mentioned it. It's one of those, the not being pushy. We've often found from our own experience that the best articles, the best posts, the most engaging, the ones that have had the most click-throughs to the website have actually been the personable ones. Not even selling a product, you're showing a person. I think we've got one of the guys flying on Blackpool Tower where we did an inspection, and that's one of our most liked articles. Yet you can create, expensive media videos, and I think sometimes just getting that person to person. And I think the other bit you mentioned is taking time. Is it takes a while to build a brand. In fact, you're just about to rebrand, and we've done it ourselves a couple of times, and you do find that that sort of brand awareness does drop for a while while you then build up. And I think as long as you're seeing positive signs week on week, that's great. And obviously, the steeper the curve, the better. But that's where you need to like yourself for expertise.
Yeah, it's understanding what you want to be known for as well. Because I think, I used to sell and market laser scanning equipment. And when I first started doing that, it was we were targeting surveyors, both in the rail, highways, mining, heritage, archaeology, all of these different industries. But we were just a small team. And we weren't really known for anything in particular. Whereas when we stripped it back and we were just right, okay, cool. Well, what are the main industries that we love dealing with as customers? They love dealing with us. They value what we offer. They're willing to pay the prices that we sell at. And also the sales cycles are manageable for the small business. You're not tendering for things that take years, for example. And I think when you strip it down and just think, right, okay, well, what do I want to be known for? And identify 1 or 2 things. Then it's so much easier to market. And then that time that it takes you to build that brand and have that brand awareness and get people searching for the things that you're known for will be a lot shorter.
Good. Well, Charlie, let's not leave it 5 years before we talk again.
I know. Can't believe it. It's 5 years. Bonkers.
Congratulations on creating a family since we met last time, and on the business, and obviously the rebranding. Good luck with that. I know how painful the rebranding is.
All good.
For everyone else, tune in next week. We've got Tam back on. We're going to be looking at associations, and particularly on VirtueWorks, our, as I mentioned, conferencing platform, not to put in a plug. So thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.